I'm going to make that base again because I, I don't think I showed very well the shape of the base. So I have this very flexible piece of chocolate, which I'm going to roll into a ball. You can see how shiny it gets just from the heat of my hands. Okay, so I'm going to take that and then I'm going to roll it just the edge of it. I want to make a cone out of it. Doesn't need to be tall, just kind of shaped like an elongated Hershey's Kiss. And then I'm going to set it down so that it's flat on the bottom so it stands up. Okay, so the circles have been sitting here for a little while and they're a little bit hard. So I'm going to put it in my hand briefly and it will become quite flexible. Very soft, again, as long as I've kneaded it for the first time. Again, spoon right against the edge, and I'm just following the circle around and around, thinning and slightly stretching the edge. Okay, and I'm also going to finish it by rubbing it with my hand and gently but firmly I'm going to cut it away from the tray. You do have to be a little careful. This is aluminum. It's easy to cut, scrape away pieces. So I'm going to take this, put it in my hand like this, and I'm going to wrap around one side. I would like to get a nice tight close, and I wrap the other side around. You can decide if you'd like to have it completely closed or open slightly. Okay, so it's a cone, and then this first petal starts about halfway up the cone. Okay, I'm now going to put on the next row of petals, excuse me. So I need 3 circles of chocolate. Now the chocolate has been sitting here a little bit and it's hard or firm. If I tried to shape this, the chocolate would break. So the first thing I need to do is put the chocolate in between my hands for a short bit, and just that little a little bit of warmth makes the chocolate much more flexible. So if you're you can touch it if you want, depends on the temperature of your hands, but these are, as they've been sitting for a while, as the circles have been sitting for a while, actually quite a while, the chocolate is losing its flexibility, so I'm just going to rewarm it, and now they're quite easy to use. So I'm going to press them down slightly so that they don't move. Just stick them a little bit to the tray. And now I'm going to do the same motion that I did on the first petal. I'm going to rest the spoon against the petal and lightly but firmly go around and around the petal. The point here is to thin the edge of the petal. I'm not really touching the middle at all. If you visualize a rose petal or many other flower petals, the edge of the petal is thinner and the middle of the petal is thicker. That's why the edge of the petal often curls as the petal ages. So I am thinning just the edge of the petal. Okay, so I'm doing, because I'm going to put a layer of 3 on, I'm going to do 3 at a time. And then because they're slightly dull, I'm just going to use a little bit of friction. Be the same if you were wearing a glove. Again, if I wear a glove, my hands are just too cold, but many of you will need to wear a glove. Now I'm going to carefully separate the petals from the tray. And this is what's different about all the next petals, the next 3 layers that we're going to put on. A layer of 3, a layer of 5, and a layer of 7. We need the petals to have a little bit more shape, so I'm going to, at the base of the petal, I'm going to make a slit that's just a little more than a third, a little bit less than a half. So I have the slit in my petal. I'm going to cross the slit over, and this leads to the petal being cupped. At the same time, I'm going to curl back the top of the petal, so the petal now has a cupped shape at the base, and the upper part of the petal is curled back. And it's starting to get sticky in my hand, so I'm going to set it back down. Again, the next one, I'm overlapping the cut and curling the top of the petal. Overlapping the bottom of the petal and curling the top. Now I have those 3 petals. I am going to wrap them around my base, but I'd like them to overlap. So I'm going to start with the petal and the base at about the same height, and I'm going to hold it on one side. So one side of the petal is attached and one side of the petal is not attached. I'm going to slide the next petal into that opening. Again, I'm trying to make sure that they are the same height as the base. I have one side attached and one side open. And now I'm going to add the third petal inside of that second petal, overlapping the first petal. I am trying to do this as well as I can so that you can still see it. I have a small amount of time to adjust the petals before they get too hard to deal with. So I'm just the heat of my hands. I don't need to put any adhesive on here. I don't need to add anything to make it stick. Just the heat of my hands, warming the chocolate and pressing it into the base. I'm going to do my best here to show you all sides of it. Okay, so that is my layer of 3, and now I'm going to prepare the 5 petals. Okay, I'm ready to resume with my layer of 7 petals. I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to make sure that the next layer of petals is not higher than the base. I'm going to attach one side and leave the other side open. Put the next one in there. I'm going to try to arrange these so that 5 of them go around the flower fairly uniformly. Fortunately, roses are not all the same, so I need to move this just a little bit. There we go. So again, I'm going to want to make sure that nothing is higher than the base, and just the warmth of my hands is enough to attach them. So there is my layer of 5. I have a little bit of time if I want to make any adjustments. You can see if I want it to be more open or less open. I have a little bit of time, but then soon the petals will be too hard to move. Okay, and now I'm going to prepare my layer of 7. Okay, I'm back with 7 petals prepared, and I'm going to do the same thing I did the last time. I'm going to take a petal, attach it on one side, and leave the other side open. And one by one, put in the remaining petals. This is a little bit harder to hold on to as you're putting on the petals. So this is actually, the rose is several skills. One of them is making attractive petals, and the second part is arranging them uniformly and attractively as possible. May take a little practice for you to figure out how to arrange them so they come out semi-uniformly when you finish the row. So there are 7. These 2 here are a little bit low, so I do have a little time to arrange them. So I think I'm going to open that up a little bit. So this last row that I put on, I can adjust the petals a bit. These are too hard. The center and the next row of 5, they are much too hard to change. But this outside row, if I decide that I would like the petals to be pinched a little bit more, I can do that, as outside petals are often a little bit older. So there is your rose with, this is a classic 16 petal rose. So it has the base 1, 3, 5, 7. So this is a 16 petal rose made out of modeling chocolate. And they're all, everyone's going to look different. Yours is probably going to look better. This is one that I made previously. So they all have their own little personality.